You spent 2 months riling up your base that our country had literally been stolen from them through fraudulent means, that you could never even get a whiff of in a court of law, and let yourself just abuse them. You pressed on. You abused their trust. You showed up for a speech. You tweeted, "Join me on January 6th. It will be wild." But suddenly now, I was just a hired magician, did a bar mitzvah. I didn't do anything. I showed up with a hat and a rabbit, and then the whole party went out of control. This man who constantly professes to be your champion, who says they're going to have to go through him to get to you, will always, when the boat is going down, be the first into the lifeboats, because in that moment, he will always say the same thing. I didn't know anything about it. I was just told to show up for a cruise, even though everybody knows he was the captain of the ship.
Jon Stewart's recent critique of MSNBC and CNN has sparked significant discussion. He criticized both networks for what he views as biased reporting, particularly focusing on CNN's choice not to air a doctored image of President Biden shared by former President Trump on Truth Social.
Audie, let's talk a little bit more about the community in Michigan that has, and you know, you talked a little bit about this yesterday, about just the sheer emotion that is driving this. And just to kind of give people a sense, in Michigan, David referenced the 10,000 votes that separated Hillary Clinton from Donald Trump when Donald Trump won Michigan. It was 150,000 votes that separated Trump and Biden when in 2020, when Biden won. There are about 140,000 people who voted in that election who say that they are Muslims. Now, that's obviously not all Arab Americans are Muslim. Not all Muslims are Arab American. But this is a really significant community. And Tlaib has been encouraging them to vote as a bloc. How do you see that playing out?
Well, I think that's kind of the point of primaries, right? It's your moment, as she says, to have a bullhorn and say, this is the issue that matters to me. I'd also like to broaden this out, because this is not necessarily an issue, what's going on in Gaza, that is affecting Arab Americans only. Right. Generationally, young people in the Democratic Party view this differently. Michigan has a large student population. Michigan has, as you said, a large Arab American and even Black Muslim population. These are all people who find affinity with what they see as oppression in the region. And one of the reasons why I think this is an interesting test is having a test of the coalition, meaning your white, blue-collar labor guys, your various affinity groups, your students. This is a different picture than South Carolina, don't you think? Where it was really more like, hey, remember those folks who helped us last time? Are they coming back? This is like, oh, well, what is the picture of the group of voters who make up Biden? And is this going to happen? I mean, is that, am I reading too much into Michigan?
No, I think you get a little representative in Michigan of each slice of his coalition.
Yeah.
So,
and they're saying, look, you walk the picket lines for labor. Like, you know, the mayor of Dearborn was upset when they sent campaign people instead of policy people to talk about the Middle East. They're saying, take us seriously. And I think that's maybe how we can think of it, instead of just sort of like, which identity group is complaining today?
Fair enough. Let's take a look. Jon Stewart actually opened The Daily Show with a monologue about Gaza last night. I want to watch a little bit of that.
Hey, Israel! Take it to the net! Could you please be more careful with your bombing? It's good advice. But really, couldn't the United States have told Israel that when we gave them all the bombs? There are bombs. This is like your Coke dealer coming in with an 8-ball and going, don't stay up all night.
Jonah Goldberg, we've talked a lot about where Democrats are on this, and Ashley, you know, weigh in too, but there's a reason why the president has been where he is this entire time on this issue, which is that still, despite the pressure from progressives, a lot of the country is with him on Israel.
Yeah, that's sort of my problem with the way the media generally talks about the Michigan issue and all that is, you know, there's nothing wrong with the squeaky wheel getting attention. That's how politics, that's how democracy works. People who organize and protest get attention. At the same time, it's sort of assumed that if you would just switch positions to what the sort of the Rashida Tlaibs want, that would solve his political problems, and it would not. You know, David's right about Michigan being on the teetering point for Biden. If he went whole hog the other way, he'd probably lose Pennsylvania. And he might, and it's not obvious to me when you look at the numbers that switching positions would gain him more votes than would lose him, even in Michigan. This all goes to the, and I think this is part of Audie's point, is like, it's more the generational thing that is a real threat to Biden than the Arab American or Muslim vote in Michigan. And it just goes to the fact that his coalition is much bigger than Donald Trump's. And therefore, you're going to have people on different sides of issues in the same coalition. FDR had straight up Klansmen and communist Jews and blacks in his coalition. You know,
Stewart argues that the handling of the Biden image reveals a double standard. He suggests that CNN shows caution when content could embarrass or harm a political ally, raising concerns about the network's commitment to unbiased journalism.
Now to a mother who claims to be a victim of lefties losing it on United Airlines. She was left stranded in San Francisco with her 16-month-old because she apparently misgendered a non-binary flight attendant.
Okay, so we were denied boarding, myself, my 16-month-old son, my mother. They took our luggage on the plane, which has my thyroid medication, which I'll be very sick without, my mother's medication. They basically said tough luck. And they won't tell me exactly what I said, but what happened, and I will tell you what happened right now. I was speaking to one of the flight attendants, got their pronouns wrong. The other flight attendant didn't like it. I said, I'm really sorry. I'm not very versed with pronouns. I was holding my son. He was having a temper tantrum. I had the car seat on my back. I wasn't really focusing on anything except getting my son's car seat on the flight and getting him comfortable and safe, and him, because now it's his nap time. You can see he's kind of fallen asleep. They're saying that like it's a hate crime that I did, that I might not even be able to ever fly United. We don't even know how we're going to get back today.
Now, this is exciting, folks. Only happens about once a decade, but we've got footage of Jon Stewart actually being funny. He's at his best when he challenges the dominant media orthodoxy, and that's precisely what he did here, taking on lefties losing it in the mainstream media over a disturbing image that is too violent and dehumanising to show on television.
In our editorial discussions this morning, we were asked not to show the image from this video because of its violent and disturbing nature.
Video, which we are intentionally choosing not to show you.
We're not going to show because of how disturbing it is.
I was extremely disturbed to see this.
Horrible, horrible, violent imagery.
Violent and dehumanizing imagery.
We're only going to show you a clip of this briefly.
All right, that's enough. Let's take it down.
This has got to be devastating. News channels show images from Ukraine, from Gaza, from natural disasters. They get through them dispassionately. I can't imagine how devastating this footage must be.
Former President Donald Trump shared a video, this one, on his Truth Social account featuring an image of President Joe Biden hogtied on the back of a pickup truck.
That's what was so disturbing and dehumanizing. You wouldn't show it on television, and an airbrushed Biden decal on the back of a truck? Aren't you the same networks that show reruns of 9/11 every year?
Yep, just earlier this month, much of the media in the US had an absolute meltdown about an obviously doctored image, a meme basically on the back of a pickup truck. Can't imagine why people have lost trust in the media. Even Jon Stewart has lost faith.
It's a doctored image, but it's plastered on the tailgate of the pickup truck. So if you're driving behind it, it would appear as if Joe Biden were actually restrained on the vehicle's flatbed.
If you think that's really Joe Biden tied up on the back of the pickup truck, I don't know that you have the mental acuity to be operating a motor vehicle.
Now, let's, with the help of AI, look at how CNN would love to conduct the presidential debate.
I'd like to set the ground rules to this debate. First off, Biden is allowed to speak whenever he wishes. We will have commercial breaks whenever Biden feels the urge so that his needs can be taken care of. This may or may not include naps, energy boosts, or a snack such as ice cream. On the other hand, Trump is not allowed to speak unless spoken to, and if he interrupts Joe speaking, we're automatically going to deduct 10 points from Trump and Dore. As the hall moderator of this debate, I can call it off at any moment and declare it a complete victory for Biden. Where did Trump go? He was just here.
Stewart also points to the decline in viewership for CNN and MSNBC, noting a significant drop in audience numbers since Donald Trump's departure from office. This drop is attributed to factors like biased reporting, sensationalism, and decreasing trust among viewers.
Questions about President Biden's mental acuity continue to be asked on both sides of the political aisle, and now the usually Biden-friendly late-night comics are beginning to wonder what's going on. Stephen Fabian with more on that.
Late night just got a whole lot less entertaining for Joe Biden. Stephen Colbert came right out and called on Biden to quit the race.
I believe he's a good enough man, he is a good enough president to put the needs of the country ahead of the needs of his ego.
The Daily Show's Jon Stewart, who is beloved by liberals, didn't hold back on the Biden jabs either. He's mad as hell.
Do you have any idea how thirsty Americans are for any hint of inspiration or leadership? It is crushing our spirit.
Today, Democratic members of Congress met behind closed doors to consider whether to back Biden or dump him.
There's still a lot of concern among congressional Democrats, both in the House and the Senate, about whether the president can convince voters that he has what it takes to win re-election in November.
And Donald Trump is speaking out for the first time since the debate debacle that's calling into question Biden's fitness for office.
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
It was a strange evening. It was a strange debate. He's got an ego and he doesn't want to quit. I think Jill would like to see him stay. She's having a good time.
The First Lady is hitting the campaign trail hard, acting as the president's #1 booster. She's showing some signs of stress, getting testy when a reporter yelled out a question.
Do you have any message to House Democrats who are calling for your husband to drop out of the race?
Why are you screaming at me? You know me. Don't scream at me.
One headline today is calling her Lady McBiden, after Shakespeare's ruthless Lady Macbeth. Anita McBride is the co-author of U.S. First Ladies and former chief of staff to Laura Bush.
She believes her husband is the only person who really could run the country right now and the only person who could beat Donald Trump. And that is fueling, this speculation that she's clinging on to this even more than he is.
Jon Stewart's critique underscores major issues with media bias and selective reporting on CNN and MSNBC. He highlights inconsistencies in how these networks handle graphic content and urges viewers to critically assess the information they receive. The viewership decline reflects broader dissatisfaction with biased and sensationalistic news, emphasizing the need for critical engagement with media to ensure it serves its role of informing the public without pushing political agendas.